repeated Jean in a strange, hard voice. "Listen, M'sieur. The two others leaped upon me. I fought, and then I was struck on the head, and when I came to my senses I was in the light of the camp fire, and the man I had come to kill was over me. One of the other men was Thoreau, the Free Trader. He had told who I was. It was useless to lie. I told the truth, that I had come to kill him and why. And then, in the light of that campfire, M'sieur, he proved to me what it would have meant if I had succeeded. Thoreau carried the paper. It was in an envelope addressed to the master of Adare. They tore this open that I might read, and in that paper, written by the man I had come to kill, was the whole terrible story, every detail, and it made me cold and sick. Perhaps you begin to understand, M'sieur. Perhaps you will see more clearly when I tell you." "Yes, yes," urged Philip. "That this man, the father of the baby, is the Lang who owns Thoreau, who owns that freebooter's hell, who owns the string of them from here to the Athabasca, and who lives in Montreal." Philip could only stare at Jean, who went on, his face the colour of gray ash in the starlight. "I must tell you the rest. You must understand before the great fight comes. You know, the terrible thing happened in Montreal, and this man Lang, all the passion of hell is in his soul. He is rich, he has power up here, for he owns Thoreau and all his cutthroats. And he is not satisfied with the ruin he worked down there. He has followed Josephine. He is mad with passion, with the desire " "Good God, don't tell me more of that!" cried Philip. "I understand. He is followed, and Josephine is to be the price of his silence." "Yes, just that. He knows what it means up here for such a thing to happen. His love for her is not love. It is the passion that fills hell with its worst. He laid his plans before he came. That letter, the paper I read, M'sieur. He meant to see Josephine at once and show it to her. There are two of those papers, one at Thoreau's place and one in Thoreau's pocket. If anything happens to Lang, one of them is to be delivered to the master of Adare by Thoreau. If I had killed him it would have gone to Le M'sieur. It is his safeguard, and there are two copies, to make the thing sure, so we cannot kill him. Josephine listened to all this tonight, from Lang's own lips, and she pleaded with him, M'sieur. She called upon him to think of the little child, letting him believe that it was still alive. And he laughed at her. And then, almost as I was ready to plunge my knife into his heart, she threw up her head like an angel and told him to do his worst, that she refused to pay the price. I never saw her stronger than in that moment, M'sieur, in that moment when there was no hope. I would have killed him then for the paper he had. But the other is at Thoreau's. He has gone back there. He says that unless he receives word of Josephine's surrender within a week, the crash will come. The paper will be given to the master of Adare. And now, M'sieur Philip, what do you have to say?" "That there never was game lost until it was played to the end," replied Philip, and he drew nearer to look straight and steadily into the half breed's eyes. "Go on, Jean. There is something more which you have not told me, and that is the biggest thing of all. Go on." For a space there was a startled look in Jean's eyes. Then he shrugged his shoulders and smiled. "Of course there is more," he said. "You have known that, M'sieur. There is one thing which you will never know, that which Josephine said you would not guess if you lived 1,000 years. You must forget that there is more than I have told you, for it will do you no good to remember." Expectancy died out of Philip's eyes. "And yet I believe that what you are holding back from me is the key to everything." "I have told you enough, M'sieur, enough to make you see why we must fight." "But not how." "That will come soon," replied Jean, a little troubled. The men were silent. Behind them they heard the restless movement of the dogs. Out of the gloom came a wailing whine. Again Philip looked at Jean. "Do you know your story seems weak in places, Jean?" he said. "I believe every word you have said, and yet, when you come to think of it all, the situation doesn't seem to be so terribly alarming to me after all. Why, for instance, do you fear those letters, this scoundrel Lang's confession? Kill him. Let the letter come to Adare. Cannot Josephine swear that she is innocent? Can she not have a story of her own showing how foully Lang tried to blackmail her into a crime? Would not Adare believe her word before that of a freebooter? And am I not here to swear that the child was mine?" There was almost a pitying look in the half breed's eyes. "M'sieur, what if in that letter were named people and places, the hospital itself, the doctors, the record of birth? What if it contained all those many things by which the master of Adare might trail back easily to the truth? With those things in the letter, would he not investigate? And then—" He made a despairing gesture. "I see," said Philip. Then he added quickly: "But could we not keep the papers from Adare, Jean? Could we not watch for the messenger?" "They are not fools, M'sieur. Such a thing would be easy if they sent a messenger with the papers. But they have guarded against that. Le M'sieur is to be invited to Thoreau's. The letter will be given to him there." Philip began pacing back and forth, his head bowed in thought, his hands deep in his pockets. "They have planned it very well, like very devils," he exclaimed. "And yet, even now, I see a flaw. Is Lang's threat merely a threat? Would he, after all, actually have the letter given to Adare? If these letters are not his trump card, why did he try to have him killed? Would not Adare's death rob him of his greatest power?" "In a way, M'sieur. And yet, with Le M'sieur gone, both Josephine and Miriam would be still more hopelessly in his clutches. For I know that he had planned to kill me after the master. My brother had not guessed that. And then the women would be alone. Holy Heaven, I cannot see the end of crime that might come of that. Even though they escaped him to go back to civilization, they would be still more in his power there." Philip's face was upturned to the stars. He laughed, but there was no mirth in the laugh. And then he faced Jean again, and his eyes were filled with the merciless gleam that came into those of the wolf beasts back in the pit. "It is the big fight, then, Jean. But before that, just one question more. All of this trouble might have been saved if Josephine had married Lang. Why didn't she?" For an instant every muscle in Jean's body became as taut as a bowstring. He hunched a little forward, as if about to leap upon the other and strike him down. And then, all at once, he relaxed. His hands unclenched, and he answered calmly: "That is the one story that will never be told, M'sieur. Come. They will wonder about us at Adare House. Let us return." Philip fell in behind him. Not until they were close to the door of the house did Jean speak again. "You are with me, M'sieur? To the death, if it must be?" "Yes, to the death," replied Philip. "Then let no sleep come to your eyes so long as Josephine is awake," went on Jean quickly. "I am going to leave Adare House to night, M'sieur, with team and sledge. The master must believe I have gone over to see my sick friend on the Pipestone. I am going there and farther." His voice became a low, tense whisper. "You understand, M'sieur? We are preparing." The two clasped hands. "I will return late to morrow, or to morrow night," resumed Jean. "It may even be the next day. But I shall travel fast, without rest. And during that time you are on guard. In my room you will find an extra rifle and cartridges. Carry it when you go about. And spend as much of your time as you can with the master of Adare. Watch Josephine. I will not see her again to night. Warn her for me. She must not go alone into the forests, not even to the dog pit." "I understand," said Philip. They entered the house. 20 minutes later, from the window of his room, Philip saw a dark figure walking swiftly back toward the forest. Still later he heard the distant wail of a husky coming from the direction of the pit, and he knew that the first gun in the big fight had been fired, that Jean Jacques Croisset was off on his thrilling mission into the depths of the forest. What that mission was he had not asked him, but he had guessed, and his blood ran warm with a strange excitement. CHAPter 21